Hello and welcome. My name is Elizabeth. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really glad you're here because I read the incredible third book in a series called The Edge of Darkness by Kyla Stone. Now, if you haven't watched the first three stories, check for the links below. I have already covered book one, book two, and the preview. So I'm going to give you a really quick recap on where we are. So this is the fourth book in the series. If you remember, in the very first book, we found out, or the prequel, we found out that what happened with Liam when the blast went off. Then in the first book, we met Hannah, a woman who had been kidnapped and kept captive for 5 years by Pike, a sadistic monster of a human. The blast allowed her to set herself free, but Pike is hunting her. She's nearly 9 months pregnant, and he wants the child that's inside her. He says it's his. Luckily, she ran into Liam, and he has been helping and protecting her. She also has a purebred Great Pyrenees named Ghost, who is extremely loyal. When we last left Hannah, she had gotten away from Pike with the help of Ghost, who was shot for his efforts. He also took a large chunk of Pike's shoulder, so yay Ghost. Hannah, Liam, and Ghost were spending the night in a barn with the plan to visit a vet as soon as they could. Pike is still in the small town where he caught up with Hannah looking for a doctor to treat his shoulder. Now in the second book we met, so the third book I've covered, the second in the series, we meet Noah and Milo. That's Hannah's husband and son. Noah is a police officer in Falls Creek, the small town where they live. Milo is now 8, and he is a great kid. But he happens to have Addison's disease, and it can be managed with medication. Quinn is a teen girl from down the road, and she and Milo have trauma bonded in many ways. First, they were left on a ski lift and had to find their own way down. That was when the blast first hit. Then they are the only 2 of 3 survivors after the junkies in town shot up a church, killing 47 people. At first, Falls Creek didn't want to invite community leader Rosamond's cousin and his militia to town to help protect them. But after the church massacre, the council unanimously voted for the militia to come and protect their town. For their protection, Rosamond has given them houses in Winter Haven, a self-sufficient community with running water, septic system, and electricity. This book will include both Hannah and Liam's travels towards Falls Creek with Pike on their trail, and how things continue to unfold in Falls Creek and Winter Haven. Trigger warnings. We've got violence, gun violence, killing, murders, drug use, death penalty without trial, sadistic behavior, and suicide. Keeping all that in mind, if you are interested in hearing the whole story, join me for the ride. Okay, this book opens with Hannah having a nightmare. To grab her wrist and hold it so that he doesn't get cut by her knife. Eventually, she calms down and realizes it's Liam and not Pike. When she looks up at Liam, she sees a trickle of blood coming out of his nose and she mumbles a sorry. He tells her to never apologize for self-defense. He shakes his head and says, "That was a good clean punch. I'm glad." She checks on Ghost, who's still laying down where he was last night. She feels his belly moving up and down and sighs with relief. Liam suggests that they look at a map and then get going. They look for a town that isn't too small, but is relatively close. So if it's too small, there won't be a vet's clinic, right? If it's too big, it won't be safe. And it needs to be close enough to be able to get Ghosts there to be treated. And they find one, and Liam is like, okay, this is where we're going to go. And he's like, I really don't want to use the snowmobile because it's too loud and everyone can hear it coming. And he can't really hear what's going on around them because of the sound of the snowmobile. But speed is so important to save Ghost, so they have to use the snowmobiles. And he explains situational awareness to Hannah and tells her to keep a lookout and tell him if anything seems off. And of course, he's the one who spots something off first. So he pulls over and he cuts the engine. He shows Hannah what he sees, the telltale signs that there's an ambush up ahead. Then an old truck outfitted with snow chains on the tires comes along and gets ambushed. There are 3 men, and they pull the older couple from the car. The woman begs for their lives, but the men punch her in response and start going through their things. Hannah tells Liam she has to protect them. But he says, no, I most certainly do not. that I can't save everyone. Hannah tells him that she knows what he can do, and it probably wouldn't take him any more than 5 minutes. She jokingly says that she'll time him. He grumbles, but he was very upset about the treatment of the older couple, and he can't abide bullies, so yeah, he's gonna go help. So Liam does handle it. He takes out all 3 men. He helps the couple back into their truck along with their stuff. They offer him money, but he refuses and tells them, do not tell anyone else that you have cash. When he gets back to Hannah, he asks how long it took, and she says, I don't have a watch, but probably like 3 minutes. It's really cute. Their relationship is very cute. They're really getting to like each other. So they continue on their way. Pike wants a cigarette. Remember, he smokes cloves, right? But he won't smoke one because the doctor is fixing his shoulder. He thinks about how wonderful this new world is. He has spent most of his life perfecting the masks needed to transverse this world, but now, with the world in chaos, he can let the mask slip away and simply live his authentic life. No authority is going to have the time to worry about a criminal. He could easily disappear into this new world, leave and never step foot again in Falls Creek, but for one thing, the girl, the one who got away, Pike, does not lose. He would not allow her to win over him. He will find her, he will take what is his, he will dispatch her, and the dog, and the soldier. He asks the doctor if he's done already, and the doctor assures him that his layers of clothing have helped protect him from far worse damage from the dog bite. Pike picks up his gun, and the doctor begins to protest. You said if I helped you, you would let me go. Pike then says he's still in pain. The doctor offers opiates, but admits he can't take the pain away completely. To that, Pike's response is, well, that's too bad, huh? And he fatally shoots the doctor. This man is just the worst. Pike then lights a clove cigarette and thinks about how he has to special order his cigarettes from overseas, and it's going to suck when he runs out of what he has. He finds comfort in his clove cigarettes and Zippo lighter, a trait passed down to him from his father, who left when Pike was 7, never to return. The dull ache in his arm bolstered him. It reminded him what he owed and to whom. It entered. Hannah and Liam make it to a small but not tiny town called Ashland. They're hoping to find a vet for Ghost. Liam does not drive them directly in. He goes around and they enter quietly. Nothing seems off in the small town. Hannah insists on going with Liam to look for the vet. They leave Ghost in the trailer, Hannah promising to return quickly. It doesn't take them long to find the Paws and Claws clinic. But the back door is already propped open. And the two of them become very quiet. They slowly move through the clinic until they discover a man going through the medicine bottles. Liam walks up to him, aiming his Glock at the man, telling him to turn around slowly. The man begins to beg. I can explain. My wife has a terrible case of bronchitis, and she needs antibiotics. All the pharmacies are out. It's been out for a week, and then I thought of the pet clinic, and Liam points out that he's clearly taking more than he needs. The man admits that people are trading necessities and no one has thought of this place yet. He was just taking what he thought people might need to help him and his wife out, to get food or wood to burn or for heat. Hannah reminds Liam, not everyone is an enemy. Everyone isn't kill-worthy. And it works. The man tells them he knows the vet, and she would be totally okay with him taking meds for his wife if she was here. They jump on the information about the vet. He tells the man that he will not kill him if he takes them to the doctor's house. Back in Falls Creek, the community is getting together for a mass funeral/memorial for the victims of the church massacre. We get to see this memorial through Quinn, who's trying not to notice everyone looking at her. She is one of 3 people who survived the tragedy and knows she's a topic of conversation. Rosamond speaks first. She looks immaculate, as always, but her eyes are red-rimmed. She's clearly been crying, and will do more during her speech. She says that she's sorry and that she will do better and she won't let anything like this ever happen again in Falls Creek. Then she turns the microphone over to Bishop, the pastor of the church, another of the 3 survivors who lost his wife and daughters in the tragedy. Too much for Quinn. She had tried hard to save the girls, but she didn't. She failed. She didn't save them, and now they were dead. She starts to head out, but steps on someone's foot who says, ow, and then, oh, sorry, when they see it's Quinn. She tries to find a way out when Bishop stops talking, and she realizes he's looking directly at her. Then he jumps off the stage, walks over to Quinn, and wraps her up in his arms. It's not your fault, he says. She tells him she tried. She's so sorry, he says again. It's not your fault. He tells her that they are with the Lord and no longer feeling any pain or sadness, and she marvels that he can find comfort in that. She tries not to give in, but finally lets go and cries in his arms. Suddenly the mood shifts. Again, a cohort of town members show up, angry. They want to know what is going to be done to deal with the church massacre. They aren't interested in mourning. They aren't interested in lighting candles and silently crying. They want to know what the authorities from Falls Creek are going to do to deal with the people who did this. Shouts of kill them and take them out and make Falls Creek safe again are heard throughout the crowd. Chief Briggs tries to explain that there are procedures, and they have a plan to deal with the perpetrators, but people aren't satisfied by that information at all. Shouts of ignore procedures come from the crowd. He tries to calm them, but it doesn't work, and strange uniformed men take over the crowd. Bishop turns to Quinn and tells her to get out of there because things are going to turn ugly. But Quinn isn't afraid of ugly. Back in the small town, Ghost is on the vet examination table, and Hannah is anxiously asking if he'll be okay. The vet says that she has to do an examination first to be able to answer that there seems to be swelling in his skull, and that it depends on the damage the bullet caused to his body. Hannah and Liam have to wait. The doctor does what she can and then says that they have to see if he recovers. Hannah describes those 2 hours as the longest of her life. She can't sleep, so she and Liam begin to talk. She tries to explain further that not everyone needs to be killed. Liam explains that all the good people are going to die. They will trust the wrong person and be put down. That the loss of society and authority will allow the worst humanity has to offer, free will, to do as they please. It will allow the worst people to thrive. The conversation turns to Hannah learning to defend herself. Liam offers to start now, and they agree that there is nothing better to do while waiting. She tells Liam that her left hand is useless, but he disagrees. They figure out what her hand can do. Then he teaches her how to cock the gun using the table and explains that she can use anything hard. The sole of her boot would work, and he will get her something that she can always have on her to cock the gun on her own. This alone makes her feel so much better. When the vet comes into the waiting room, Hannah jumps up. Is he okay? The vet's response is, why don't you come see for yourself? She's greeted with a low woof. He's laying down, but his big plumed tail is beating on the examination table. Hannah throws herself at the dog, hugging him and crying. When Liam gets close enough, Ghost nudges his hand for pets, and Liam tells him it's good to see him okay. The doctor then explains that she did not need to go into his brain, that the swelling went down with her treatment, and now he just needs a couple of days to rest. Dogs like this are very resilient and bounce back incredibly well from injury. The vet can see that he's very loyal to Hannah, and that is a very good sign. Liam calls him spoiled, and the vet says that's exactly how it should be. Then Liam says they need to leave today, but the vet says, no, you have to stay because Ghost needs to rest for at least 2 days. Then the vet offers to house them in her own house. They say they can't do that, but the vet explains that she has 2 dead trees on her land that would make great firewood, but she doesn't have anyone to chop it down for her. Liam agrees that he could take care of it for her. Before they leave the doctor's office, the vet asks if she can examine Hannah, specifically her belly. She tells Hannah that she's already dropped and asks if she has felt the pressure on her bladder. Hannah, of course, has been feeling that. When the doctor says, can she check how effaced or dilated she is, Hannah says no. The doctor doesn't push, just says, just so you know, it's going to be soon. Back in Falls Creek, we find ourselves with Octavia, Ray, and the Carter brothers. Now, they're the ones that perpetrated the massacre. Octavia is tweaking again. She's been up for 3 days straight, and it's getting to her. Multiple members of their gang are in strategic locations in case they are attacked. They're all expecting it, that the police or maybe a mob of neighborhood people are going to show up, but they're ready. The amounts of guns and ammunition they have is impressive. Octavia is thinking about her chances. She knows that Ray would like to take out the entire police force and take over Falls Creek himself, but she knows that he's too dumb to actually succeed in that. It's Billy Carter that really worries her. He is a crazy SOB. He's the one who killed the pastor's daughters and wife, something she couldn't have done, and she doesn't think Ray could have done it either, but Billy didn't seem to have an issue with it at all, and that is why she's terrified of him. They had heard that the police killed one of their own, a man called Nickel, the one that Julian killed inside the church. They agree that they will attack the town again for Nickel and take it over. They will rule Falls Creek. And Octavia begins to dream of being the queen of Falls Creek, and how nice that will be. Delusional. Octavia is woken up by the men in the house moving around and getting their weapons. What's going on? She asks and is told, they're here. It's time to start killing. It was before dawn, and Fall Creek police, along with a faction from the Michigan militia, are strategically stationed around the Carters' property. The two groups had spent the last 2 days gathering supplies, training together, and going over the plan. They were far more organized than the criminals they were there to collect. Noah asks where Chief Briggs is, but Sutter, the head of the military, says that he didn't have the stomach for this and that they'll take care of things in his absence. Noah begins to worry. This feels so wrong. No warrant, no court to bring the criminals to if they're caught. Sutter announces that they should shoot anything that moves. And Noah can't wrap his head around that idea. They are the police. That's not how they behave. But Julian explains to his friend that they have to deal with the criminal element to save their town. Don't forget what happened in the church. Noah then thinks about how he could have lost Milo. And now, he's all in on the plan. They go at dawn. The Carter brothers and their gang were not ready for what the militia had for them. They were separated into 3 teams, and they came at them from all sides. There was a volley of gunshots, and then the return fire from inside the house stopped, and the police and the militia headed into the building. Noah's confidence grew. Julian was the first inside. He took down one of the thugs, then cleared the rest of the house. Then Noah reached the back bedroom and found a woman half in and out of the window. Her jacket was snagged on a nail, and she was stuck. He told her not to move, and when she responded with, "Fuck you," he realized it was Octavia. Noah goes through the motions of arresting her, frisking her, putting cuffs on her, reciting the Miranda rights, even though most of it was no longer true. There's no lawyer to appoint to her. There would be no trial, and it wouldn't matter if she said anything. She tries to protest. She says they were set up. Someone came into the jail and gave us that key to get out. And then she reports that whoever it was told them that Bishop had gold bars, and that's why they went to the church. Noah tells her that's pretty unbelievable, that Bishop never had any hidden gold, that all of his money went to helping the community. Octavia continues to yell. She tells Noah that Milo is alive because of her, but Noah protests. My son is alive because of Quinn, not because of you. When Sutter enters the room and sees that Octavia has been given the chance to yell at the officers, he walks over to her and hits her with the butt of his rifle. She goes down unconscious. There. That's better. Noah doesn't like it. He argues with Sutter. We can't do whatever we want. Sutter responds, says who? Noah says they have to do things by the book. And Sutter says, the book is gone. We've burned the book. Things are changing too fast for Noah. He's worried. Sutter is actually enjoying this. Julian comes into the small room and tells Noah that he needs to show him something. Noah is glad to leave Sutter. Julian takes him to the front room where Billy Carter is zip-tied and kneeling on the floor. This is him, Julian says. This is the one who killed Bishop's family. Billy demands a lawyer, and Julian punches him full in the face, probably breaking his nose. Julian reminds him that there is no lawyer, and that police brutality isn't something that will save him. Nothing will save him. Noah looks at him and says, you killed those girls. You killed my friend's family. And Billy just yells back that his nose is broken. Finally, Billy looks up at Noah and Julian and says, yeah, I killed them. Then he goes on. Do you want to hear how it felt? Do you want to hear how I enjoyed it? Because I did. Noah punches him. Then Julian says, shoot him. But Noah is still living in the old world. He's a cop. He can't just kill a bound suspect in cold blood. That would be wrong. Julian tries to explain that things are different now, but Noah can't do it. So Julian tells him he's got his back, that he will always have his back. And Julian shoots Billy in the eye. Noah is shocked. His best friend is a murderer. His best friend is a cop. Noah cannot put that right in his mind, so he just pushes it away. Then we get this beautiful scene of Milo and Quinn discussing their moms. Milo tells Quinn that he doesn't remember his mom except for the fact that she used to sing to him at night. And Quinn tells Milo that her mom is an astronaut and is in space. But Milo tells her he knows that she was in the church when everything went down. They both agree that they don't believe their moms will be coming back. Milo convinces Quinn to sing to him, and it leads to Quinn crying. The two hold hands and cry together like supportive siblings, until Gran comes into Quinn's room. From the moment she opens the door, Quinn knows there's something wrong. Molly tells him that a messenger just came to the door to report that the church massacre monsters have been found, and the superintendent has ordered a public execution. Quinn doesn't understand. A trial? Molly explains that townspeople want vengeance, and they want it now. Molly admits that she's okay with it. Quinn says she has to go, and she and Gran convince Milo to stay with Molly to help make poop buckets for the community. It's not hard to convince a 10-year-old to be involved with poop. Before leaving, Quinn explains Milo's medications to Molly, and who assures her that he will be just fine in her care. 10 minutes later, Quinn is in town. Remember, she's got Orange Julius. She parks Orange Julius behind the laundromat, no reason to be out in the open, and heads toward the crowd. The crowd is yelling for justice and death to the monsters. At the front of the crowd is Rosamond, who is in a conversation with Chief Briggs. Well, to be more accurate, the chief is talking to Rosamond, who really isn't listening. Quinn could tell that clearly from where she stood. Julian, Rosamond's son, was standing to her right, and next to him was Noah. Then Quinn began to hear the sound of snowmobiles over the sound of the crowd. There were 4 of them, and each dragged something behind it. It took Quinn's brain a few confused moments to decipher what she's seeing. They were people. The people who had shot up the church, and were still alive, were being dragged behind the snowmobiles, and one of them is Octavia. The militiamen driving the snowmobiles turn off their vehicles, get off, and walk back to the bodies on the ground behind them. 2 militia each pull them up onto their feet. They're ragged, bruised, bloodied, and beaten messes, but Quinn could still tell who they were, and they were walked up to the podium. The 4 bound perps were pushed to their knees. 2 of them were shouting curses to the crowd. Sutter instructed them to shut up. But when they didn't, he hit each of them with the butt of his rifle. Not enough to knock them out, just enough to shut them up. Then Rosamond begins to speak to the crowd. She tells them that no one could have foreseen that things would go this way, that we all expected things to return to normal, but now we know normal is not something that will be returning to our town for a very, very long time, if ever. That in the past, these people would have been arrested, tried, and then put in jail for the rest of their lives. But that isn't an option they have right now. And she refuses to give any of their precious supplies to the human scum like this that would murder their family, friends, and town members. Shouts of agreement from the crowd. Chief Briggs begins to protest, but Rosamond shoots him a look that shuts him up. Sutter asks for the microphone, and Rosamond hands it over. He introduces himself and the militia members. He explains that Rosamond has invited them here to protect Falls Creek, that the government no longer exists, and the only government left is standing right in front of them. That any townspeople that want to leave and try to get to a FEMA camp are welcome to go, but that here in Falls Creek, if you threaten the safety of this town, you will be put down. And this is the new way of things, and everyone better get in line. Chief Briggs protests even as the crowd shouts their approval. Justice for Falls Creek. But the chief is saying that this isn't justice, it's murder. Rosamond then announces that they will be escorting the chief to a nearby house where he can rest because he's clearly not handling these things very well. He protests, but is taken away. Then Rosamond announces the guilt of the 4 people that they have brought forward, and then says that they are all sentenced to death by a firing squad, which will be carried out immediately. Sutter raises his rifle and aimed at Ray, who began to beg for his life. That is until the 2 shots went into his head. Sutter moved to the second person and did the same, then the third, and then he was pointing a rifle at Octavia. Quinn watched, but then the world went blurry. Her mom was dead. She was numb as she watched the militia bring out 4 body bags that were quickly filled with dead bodies. One of them her mother, or what used to be her mother. not that she was much of a mother. Liam and Hannah were traveling towards Falls Creek in a green 1978 Jeep. They'd stayed for the required 48 hours for the vet to monitor Ghost, and in the meantime, Liam had found the Jeep, a good way to travel with a pregnant woman and a large dog. He didn't want to travel by Jeep, it was too loud, but he had to make choices that would keep Hannah safe. On the second day, they watched as Ghost ran around in the snow, happily chuffing. When Hannah smiled at Liam, he smiled back without thinking about it first, and started to realize how incredible he found this woman to be. That she was remarkable, and he found himself caring about what happened to her, caring more than he wanted to. But he knew that his feelings wouldn't change. He wanted to drive as far as possible, maybe even all the way to Falls Creek, but it was slow going at times. Sometimes they couldn't travel faster than 10 miles per hour. When they're about 50 miles from Falls Creek, Hannah takes out the map to help navigate. Then she hisses in pain. A headache has come on very quickly, and she feels sick. Liam tries not to think about Jessa, and then, behind them, headlights broke through the darkness. Pike has been hunting them for 3 days. He found them in the small town, but couldn't do anything until they were back on the road. But he has the advantage. The headlights that appeared were red and close together, a snowmobile, which meant that Pike could go anywhere he wanted and wasn't relegated to the road like Liam and Hannah in the Jeep. Liam shifted the car into park and waited, but the headlights didn't get any closer. Then he shifted into gear and began to drive. The headlights followed. If he sped up, the headlights sped up. If he slowed down, so did the headlights. Hannah then said, "It's him." Liam responded that they don't know that for sure, but Hannah repeats, "It's him." But Liam needs to know for sure. He pulls over and turns off the Jeep's headlights. He instructs Hannah to have her gun ready just in case. He takes out his rifle, looks through the sight towards the snowmobile. He fires once, then twice. Anyone else would retreat. Pike would not, and did not. Confirmation. It's him. Liam goes to Hannah and reports that this is Pike, and he sets the sight of the rifle towards Pike, and then the snowmobile's headlights go out. Liam can no longer see where Pike is. He's playing games, Liam says. Hannah confirms he likes to play games, but Liam does not play. And he's going to finish this thing. But Hannah calls his name. What is it? Contractions. She looks at him. I'm in labor. Timing. She reports that yes, she's sure she's in labor. And not only that, but she feels terrible. She has tingling in her arm, she has a terrible headache, and she feels dizzy and sick, and she's pretty sure it's preeclampsia, gestational high blood pressure, something that could be handled easily at a hospital, but not in the middle of nowhere. Liam curses the timing and asks how serious this is. Hannah answers by saying, "If you want to know if this can kill me, yes. Yes, it can." Then she tells him what she needs. She needs to get it out. Whatever is happening to her will stop as soon as it's out of her. Behind them, the snowmobile's lights flicker on and stay stationary. Liam announces his plan. We will get rid of Pike and then find a place to hole up. If Pike shows up where they are, he will kill him. And if not, he'll do it after. Right now, they need to find a safe place for Hannah to give birth. He curses again at the crappy timing. He tries to drive fast enough to get away from the snowmobile, but there are too many obstacles in the road and not enough visibility to make him aware of those obstacles in time to avoid them and go quickly. Eventually, Pike caught up with them and started ramming them from behind. The snowmobile wasn't big enough to get the Jeep over, but Pike kept nipping at the Jeep. Then Pike pulled up next to the Jeep and started shooting. And they realize he's aiming for the tires. The snowmobile continues past them. Liam thinks he's going to come back around and try for their tires again. A large field comes into view, and Hannah grabs the map. She knows where they are and has an idea. Hannah and Liam are still racing away from Pike, now heading towards the Paw Paw River. Hannah is looking for a street sign and yells when she sees it. They're about 25 miles from Falls Creek, so close, but still so far. Every 6 or 7 minutes, her belly is hit with a major contraction, and she's reminded that she has to get this thing out of her. When they're about a half a mile from the bridge that crosses over the river, they pull over and turn off the Jeep. The snowmobile stops too. Liam tells Hannah to get her gun and be ready. Then he announces he will be taking a shot. He lines up the rifle and shoots 3 times. The snowmobile heads towards them again. Liam turns the Jeep back and races ahead, but the snowmobile is quickly pulling up next to them. Hannah unrolls her window and Liam yells, "Shoot." She does. The snowmobile swerves and Hannah shoots again. Then again. She doesn't hit him, but that's not the plan. The plan is to distract him, to have him focus on Hannah. She shot again, and this time he shot back, aiming for the Jeep, not the people inside. He pulled up next to them again just as they reached the bridge, which was when Liam turned the wheel and ran directly into the snowmobile. And Pike is still only steering with one hand, most of his attention on the hand with the gun, so the vehicle spins out of control. Then it runs into a snowbank that snapped the skis clean off. Then the machine was turning end over end and into the Paw Paw River. It worked. But the Jeep ran into the side of the bridge and buckled. The impact made Hannah think that they were going over the bridge and into the river, but they didn't. They were still on land and dry, but the Jeep was done. They would have to walk. Liam gives a rope to Hannah to tie around her so that they don't lose each other in the snowstorm. Hannah feels a primal need to find a place to give birth. She's so cold. Her eyelashes are coated in snow and ice, but through the blur she sees something. A mailbox, which means there's a house. It's empty. Liam brings 2 mattresses downstairs and sets them up in front of the fireplace where he's already got a fire burning. He then gets as many blankets and candles as he can find, also a nightgown for Hannah. You can't give birth in pants. Then he says he's going to go to try to locate some food when Hannah grunts and says it's coming. The baby is coming. Meanwhile, back in Falls Creek, Noah is making breakfast for Milo and trying to figure out how to talk to him about what he went through at the church. After some awkward questioning, Milo explains that Quinn told him not to look, that winning the game meant not looking. And Noah is so grateful for Quinn. He's almost in tears. Julian shows up at their front stoop and says he has good news, that Noah needs to come down to the middle school and see the new donation center they're setting up. Noah questions what in the world do they have to distribute, and Julian says Sutter really came through. When they arrive, they find dozens of townspeople unloading food, water, other supplies, a massive amount. Noah asks where it all came from, and Sutter says they found 2 abandoned trucks filled with food and water, that there were a couple of other places to check, a distribution center and a pharmaceutical warehouse that were out of the way and may not have been looted yet. Then Sutter tells Noah that they found insulin for the diabetic in town, and they also found hydrocortisone for Milo. 2 years worth. Maybe 3. Noah is shocked and overwhelmed by the news. He's doing it. He's taking care of Milo. But Chief Briggs is shouting that there's no way they found all this. He knows they took it, that they should be arrested and sent to jail. Rosamond then gets in between the 2 men and says things are different now. They have to focus on keeping people alive, not necessarily following the law. The chief turns on his heels and leaves in a huff. Sutter announces that he and his men need to get working on collecting taxes. They are going to be going to every house and taking 10% of each house's supplies to help bolster the donation center's stores. Rosamond assures Noah that they will not be bothering Bishop with the tax. He has earned his privacy and grief. Noah wants to speak with Rosamond, and she agrees. They head over to the high school and meet in one of the old classrooms. He has concerns. The militia is aggressive. Rosamond explains how important it is to have strong protectors. Then he says people are not going to like the food tax. Rosamond explains that it's the best way to keep all the people in town alive. Then he tells her about Octavia's story about being given a key and told that there was gold in the church. She promises that once things get back to normal, a full investigation will be done. Basically, Rosamond talks Noah out of all of his concerns. Just as their meeting is ending, a report comes over Rosamond's radio. There's a man here who says he's from FEMA. Should I let him in? The FEMA guy is named Andrew, and he is here to tell them that they are on their own. That the big cities, where there are hundreds of thousands of people, are more important than a tiny town of 1,000. There are FEMA camps set up, and that anyone who would like to go to one of those camps will be provided transportation, and that is it. No food, no supplies, no aid will be coming to Falls Creek. Quinn, Molly, and Milo are putting together a solo oven at Molly's kitchen table. They're surrounded by the cats and discussing the merits of cats versus dogs when Molly says that she wants the 2 of them to go check on the neighbors. She has a bag of food for each of the neighbors. Molly's been checking on them daily, but today her back isn't up for the cold. She directs Milo and Quinn to tell each family what they are bringing over was going to spoil, but they decided to share with what they could, but this was the last of it. Molly makes sure that Milo knows the message and sends them on their way. The third house is the first one with people in it, the Clearys, a middle-aged couple with a brood of noisy boys. When they knock on the door, the response they get is a shotgun pointed at their faces through a small crack in the open door. Quinn quickly tries to explain, "I'm Molly's granddaughter. She sent me over with food for you." The mention of food changes the lady's attitude very quickly. The two youngest boys aren't running around, but the three older ones still seem to have energy. Mrs. Cleary begins to make the mac and cheese Quinn brought over. She explains that she's been warming up the last of their lemonade for everyone to have half a mug. She offers some to Milo and Quinn as well, but Quinn sees that she doesn't have one for herself. So she hands hers over to Mrs. Cleary, saying she needs it way more than Quinn. Milo and Quinn continue on their way. One family has shot a deer yesterday, so they refuse the food from Molly and they gave Milo and Quinn some deer jerky. There were only about half a dozen people still living on the street. Everyone else had either gone to the high school or a FEMA camp. One house left to check, and Finn finds the couple in their bed with gunshots to their heads, which is when she hears Milo yelling for her to come quick. Her grand's house now has over a dozen militia men and women standing in front of it. Quinn and Milo race back to Molly's house. Sutter isn't there, but a man by the name of Luther is in charge. He explains about the food and supplies tax. Quinn tells them that Gran has given plenty away, while Gran asks how much needs to be handed over. They tell her 10%. Then she asks if it's a request. It takes some talking, but she finally gets the answer that no, this is not a request. They demand to see her cupboards. Quinn starts yelling, "But everything is Gran's. She bought it, stored it, cared for it. It's not yours to take." But Molly tells her granddaughter to pick her battles. The militia men and women enter Molly's home. When they see her cupboards, they call her a hoarder. A militia man by the name of DeSoto is running out of patience for Quinn, as Quinn protests and Molly tells her to shut up. They bring in crates and fill them with Molly's supplies. Milo objects, "That's way more than 10%. But DeSoto says, "There are different rules for hoarders." Quinn protests some more. Molly tries to get her to stop. One of the female militias says to DeSoto, "I think we're done here." But he looks right at Quinn and says, "No, take more." Quinn yells that her grandmother is going to starve if they take all of her food. Luther tries to explain that they're just trying to take care of everyone. And if her grandmother wants a ride to the high school or a FEMA camp, they can do that for her. But no, Molly will not be leaving her home. As they finally leave the home, Quinn yells, "Did you raid the superintendent's house too?" "Yeah, I didn't think so." Then she looks at Gran's cupboards. They took half. They took half. They took more just to spite us, to which Gran says, "Yes, they did." And Quinn realizes it's her fault. She pushed them to take more because she couldn't shut up. Molly explains that there are times to stand up and times to be quiet. Quinn will learn with maturity which is which. Milo then announces that his stomach hurts, so Quinn offers to read to him from the stand, promising her grandmother that she'll skip the scary parts. Milo falls asleep while Quinn is reading to him, which is kind of weird. She goes to the kitchen to talk to Molly, and her gran tells her that there's something she should know. She sends her granddaughter down to the basement and asks her what she sees, but Quinn doesn't know what she's talking about. Quinn was down here getting those old pool noodles for the poop buckets just a day ago. There's nothing of note down here. Then Gran says, "Look behind the crochet supplies." And that's when she sees it. There's a door, completely hidden. You would never find it if you didn't know to look for it. Gran tells Quinn that her grandfather was always worried that something like this could happen to their modern world that relied so heavily on technology. So they had prepared. The room was filled with supplies. One side was food and the other supplies. First aid supplies, water treatment pills, headlamps, batteries, candles, bleach. Where did all this come from? Gran says they've been slowly collecting for years, and Quinn asks, "Do you mean decades?" And Gran thinks about it. Actually, yes, that's accurate. Most of the food stuff didn't need to be rotated. The powdered milk did, but most of it was packed airtight and would last. Then Gran pointed out the galvanized case in the corner of the pantry. It was a homemade Faraday cage. Gramps had made it and put a few important things in there. First, there was an e-reader full of survival materials, info on plants and herbs, how to make life-saving equipment, also a copy of the Bible. There's also an iPod because he didn't want Quinn to have to paint without her music. Quinn does her best not to cry. Molly tells her that Gramps saved up for a while to get the solar charger that would power up the e-reader and iPod. There's also LED lights, a hand crank radio, and a pair of walkie-talkies. Just then they hear Milo. Quinn runs upstairs to meet him, and Molly closes up the pantry. When Quinn saw Milo, she balked. He's pale, waxy green, and he says to her, "I don't feel so good," and then promptly vomited. Okay, back to Pike. I know, we wish we weren't going back to Pike, but did you really think that that would be the end of him? Come on. First thing we find out is that Pike is not scared. He doesn't feel fear. He's annoyed and confused and angry, but not scared. He fell off the snowmobile about 30 feet behind where it falls through the ice. Pike can hear the popping and cracking of the ice he's on, and it begins to break as well. The cold is so shocking he thought he might have a heart attack, but he didn't. He pulled himself excruciatingly slowly out of the river and over to the solid ground, to the riverbank, and pulled himself onto his feet. He shivered uncontrollably but refused to be beaten. He was tougher than this storm. He was stronger than the cold. He focused on one thing: Hannah. Killing Hannah, the dog, and the soldier. What fun that would be. Pike finds his way to a 2-story home with candles burning in the windows. Oh, good, he thinks. He knocks on the door and is greeted by a gun. But when he shows them his badge, they relax and let him inside. They get him warm, dry clothes and water and food, and he lets them take care of him. Once he's feeling more himself, he lights a clove cigarette and thinks about how wonderful it would be when Hannah and the soldier found out that he was still alive. It would probably be just before he killed them, and how lovely that would be. Noah and Bishop are taking a well-deserved break at the town bar. It has no electricity, but the owner has 2 portable heaters working their magic. The 2 men discuss the fact that the men who killed the Bishop's family are now dead. Bishop says that what they did was not justice. It was vengeance. He says he's not willing to lose his humanity to survive. Noah calls him a fool. Bishop pays for his drink with a box of Band-Aids, and Noah pays for his with 2 rolls of toilet paper. Amazing how quickly green sheets of paper lose their value. The Band-Aids and bullets are now where value lies, and Noah points out, and medicine too. Bishop understands that Noah is standing by the militia because they've provided him with the life-saving medicine his son needs. And Noah can feel his loyalty stretching. Soon, he was going to have to choose a side. As the 2 men are leaving the bar, Julian's voice comes over the walkies. "Noah, please come to the high school. People are sick, really, really sick, and we need you. Pick up Chief Briggs and get over here." Noah asks how many people are sick, and he is told over 100. And some of them are critical, including a 5-year-old girl. He and Bishop run to the high school. The gym is filled with sick people. The room smells of feces, vomit, body odor, and other sickly smells. There are makeshift vomit buckets in the middle of the room being used by many, but others are just vomiting where they lay. Turns out people have been drinking water that wasn't fully purified. Basically, they all have dysentery. They don't have a doctor in town, but they do have an ICU nurse who is running things by the name of Lee. He tells Noah and Rosamond that the supplies they have are too basic to help with dysentery. They have Advil, Tylenol, Band-Aids. Those things won't help. Antibiotics ran out a week ago, and these people need intravenous fluids. Noah asks if they will get better on their own, and the nurse says that the younger children and the elderly people will not. Otherwise, yes, most of them can, but they're already in vulnerable positions. Weeks of cold and malnutrition have left them depleted. Casualties will be more than they can predict, most likely. Rosamond, Julian, Noah, Bishop, and Lee discuss their options. What hospitals they hear are still running, what areas have been already cleaned out, and where they might find more. Noah, Julian, and Bishop agree to go looking for the supplies they need. Lee writes up a list of the antibiotics and supplies, the IVs and fluids and needles. Rosamond gives each of the 3 men their own AK-15, and just as they're headed off, they get a call. It's Quinn. She tells Noah Milo is sick. They figure out that it's the lemonade that Milo drank at the Clearys that's the culprit. Quinn explains that she didn't have any. She'd given hers back to Mrs. Cleary when she felt like she didn't need it. She didn't think it would be an issue. The lemonade had been on the stove, but then she thinks back. It wasn't boiling when Mrs. Cleary poured it out. Quinn is so sorry. They decide that Milo should stay with Molly. She can watch him and care for him while the men go looking for supplies. She explains that she has a remedy for dehydration, and she will make it for Milo and then send the recipe to the high school for the rest of the sick people. Noah instructs them to give Milo a triple dose of his meds and to take his temp every hour. If ever his temp goes over 104, give him the rescue injection. It's the only one they have, so only if necessary. Noah is extremely motivated now. There are reports of a blizzard coming in sometime in the next day or so, and they need to get what they need and get back. The three men head off, watching the side of the road for possible threats, until they find one. They hit a roadblock. The people manning it call for the three men's weapons, but they don't give them up. The roadblock people fire towards our three men, who don't go for kill shots. Then our men do the same. Noah hands his gun to Bishop and walks into the line of fire with his badge held high. He tells them that the two men who are with him are sharpshooters, and if Noah is shot, they will lose many of their men. Bishop then says that they didn't shoot and kill. They didn't shoot to kill, and that the man in the baseball hat has been in my line of sight this whole time. I could have taken him out, but I didn't. Finally, all parties realize that there are no enemies here, and the two sides start to converse politely. Noah asks if they have had a lot of looters and the roadblock people tell them that they were attacked. Julian mentions that there's a gang that he heard about a neighboring village, but they tell our men that they were too organized to be a ragtag gang. They seemed much more military. Then they are told that the other towns were hit as well, one just yesterday, and Noah starts to worry. They continue on checking towns, but they're all looted. Finally, they make it to a town of about 5,000, 5,000 before the blast struck. They're driving through the town when Bishop slams on the brakes. That's it! He tells them that his Daphne was a vet tech, and she told him that medicines used for animals are just the same as the ones used for humans. There's a vet medical supply building over there that does not look looted, and they head over. Once inside, they find some of the shelves that have been picked through, but mostly everything is still there. Bishop finds a shelf of meds and pushes all the heartworm medication to the ground and goes straight for the antibiotics. Amoxicillin, doxycycline, other ones I can't pronounce, exactly what they need. Noah finds fluids and needles and IVs, and they pack everything up. During this scene, Noah has two conversations. Bishop goes into the clinic with him while Julian stays at the truck standing guard. Julian tells him that Bishop is making him soft. Noah says that there's no need to kill those people. They weren't enemies. Then when he goes inside and talks to Bishop, Bishop says they almost fired on people who were just protecting their neighborhood. And that almost happened because of Julian. Noah thinks about it. Bishop has a clear line in the sand when it comes to morality. Julian doesn't believe in lines when it comes to survival. Noah is going to have to figure out where his own line lies. Then Bishop yells, "Catch!" It's a bottle of prednisone, and there is enough here for at least 3 years for a kid like Milo. They look at everything they have found and realize that they're going to save everyone as long as they can get it back to Lee to administer, which is exactly what they do. By the time they get back, night has fallen and the storm has begun, but it doesn't matter because they have what they need. Mrs. Cleary, who was also suffering from lupus, did not make it, but everyone else did. One of the other families took in the boys. Noah quickly headed back to Molly's house with an IV and antibiotics for Milo. They had brought the couch into the kitchen for Milo to stay comfortable and warm. They reported to Noah that Milo's temp had reached 103.5, but it was coming down, and they had been watching him like hawks. They assured Noah that he'd gotten his meds on time, and Milo told his father he felt better after having some of Miss Molly's medicine. Noah was overwhelmed with relief. It didn't take long for Milo to start to perk up. Noah then invited Molly, Quinn, and the cats to come live with him and Milo in Winter Haven, but Molly is firm in her insistence that she will stay in her home. Noah thinks out loud that things are looking up, and in response, Quinn chooses the song "The End of the World as You Know It" by REM. She then tells Noah that the militia took half of Molly's food stores. Noah promises to handle it, but the women did not believe that he can. Hannah is laying on the mattress in front of the fire with Ghost by her side. Liam is busying himself with securing the house, heating up water, finding clean towels, then checking in on Hannah. He's asking what he can do, and Hannah asks, "Just please stay with me." He wasn't planning on leaving. He asks if she's scared, and she says yes. Then she asks if he is, and he says, "Completely out of my mind with fear." Then she admits she doesn't want it, and he agrees that makes sense. He tells her that that is not an indication that she is a bad person. Then she tells Liam about her first pregnancy by Pike. She says that she begged him to let the baby go, to take it to a fire station or a hospital and just leave it there. It would be taken care of, but no, that is not Pike's way. When she gave birth to Milo, they had given her pain medicine, and a blue sheet was put up between her and her lower body. There was some tugging, but otherwise no pain, and the nurses and doctors had lifted this little baby over the blue sheet for her to meet, which was nothing like the agonizing birth of her second-born son. There was no help, no medicine to take the pain away, and yet the baby had still been born. For the next 3 days, Hannah had held, cleaned, fed, snuggled this small little life. When Pike finally returned to the basement and found her with her infant, he smiled. Then Hannah says, "Pike killed my baby." Liam reminds Hannah that there was nothing he could have done. She admits to not loving that baby, and she worries she's not going to love this one, but Liam says, "Let's focus on one thing at a time. Let's get the baby here, and then worry about how you feel." And then she couldn't focus on anything but the pain. Only it was more than pain. It was the preeclampsia, and her vision is going, and then her hearing seems to mute, and she realizes it could all end. If she just gave in to the oncoming blackness, it would all end. She only needed to let go. Liam has never felt so powerless before. When he felt for Hannah's pulse, all he could find was reedy, dim, and faint. There's no breath escaping her mouth or nose. And Liam yelled, "Breathe, damn it." He's doing CPR on her, hoping he won't break a rib. Ghost is whining next to him, and he assures him that he is trying. He would not give up. He would not stop. Visions of Jessa filled his head, and he refused to allow that to happen to Hannah, and he kept at it. Chest compressions, then breath, over and over until Hannah starts to cough. Her eyes open and she gasps for air. Liam sat back on his heels and exhaled. Ghost jumped up and gave a happy little yelp. Liam welcomed Hannah back, and she asked if she had. Liam said she had. She was back. Hannah looked at him. "You brought me back." It was time. Hannah gave over to the pain. She worked with it and pushed with all her might. The pain was excruciating, but she didn't fight it. And then, all at once, it was over. The baby was out. But the baby wasn't making any noise. The baby had come out with the cord wrapped around her head. Jessa's voice guided him. "You know what to do." And he did. He got the cord unwrapped and slowly and gently pushed 2 fingers on the baby's sternum. And he watched as she jerked, her face turned red, opened her mouth, and screamed. Liam then thought to himself, this baby is just as stubborn as her mother. Good. He took care of the umbilical cord, the afterbirth, the placenta. He cleaned the baby with warm water and clean towels, and then placed her into her mother's arms. He knew that in that moment, he would do anything and everything to keep these 2 humans safe. Back in Winter Haven, the council was meeting again. Rosamond announced that they have much to be grateful for. She has drinks for everyone, informing that this is the last of it, so enjoy. Even Sutter seems relaxed enough to enjoy. She shares the news of the triumphant medical supply run and the success of the food tax. Then she says that she would like to get a group of people together to try to locate missing neighbors who were supposed to be within 20 miles of Falls Creek when the blast happened. No one knows that Rosamond is thinking of her older son, Pike. Then she tells them that Chief Briggs has left the neighborhood. He took one of the snowmobiles and left. Noah's surprised, but Rosamond reminds him that Briggs has a daughter and son-in-law about an hour's distance away, and he probably went to be with them, which meant that they needed a new chief of police. Julian, Rosamond's youngest son, begins to smile, knowing that he will be named the new chief. But Rosamond announces that it will be Noah. Julian is pissed, and Noah is worried, but he steps up and accepts the position and thanks Rosamond for her trust in his ability. But he also knows that the chief of police in Falls Creek is really just window dressing. The real power is Rosamond's. Rosamond called for a town hall the next day, and Molly insisted that she and Quinn attend. First, the people are upset about the food tax. But then Rosamond announces that Noah is the new chief of police, and people are mostly glad about it. Milo, in the front row, applauded wildly for his father. One family yells out that they have 5 kids, and Raymond's son Julian has his own giant house. That's not fair. Some of the council members try to explain. One offers to have a shower rotation, but it's too little too late. Noah asks if they could please calm down, but it isn't until Sutter says that they will end this meeting right now if everyone can't behave that they finally... Sutter then speaks to the crowd. Democracy died with the electricity. If you don't like how we're running things, I will personally escort you to a FEMA bus. So either get in line or get the hell out. Sutter then exits the hall, followed by Rosamond and Julian. Quinn can't believe it. Rosamond wasn't standing up against Sutter. I guess we know who the new sheriff in town is, and it wasn't Noah. Noah had remained very quiet since Sutter took over. Quinn's disappointment in him grew. Julian was livid. All he ever did his entire life was what his mother wanted, and it was never good enough. Pike was the beloved son, not him. Julian had always hated his older brother. He was sadistic and cruel. The memory of broken fingers in childhood stung when he thought about it. But no matter what he did, Pike was always the favorite. Julian, meanwhile, when his mother said jump, his response was always, how high? He had done everything she'd asked of him. He'd gotten rid of Chief Briggs for her, didn't he? And now he had to get rid of some evidence. He drove over the Falls Creek Bridge and parked the snowmobile at the edge. He walked onto the bridge and looked at the icy river below. He took out a brick that he had wrapped a cord around, connecting it to a large, old key. And he dropped it in the river. Why'd he keep it? A bit of guilt needled at him. He didn't know what they would do. He thought he was sending them towards Bishop, not the 47 people they ended up killing. But the guilt faded quickly. It didn't matter anymore because the key was now at the bottom of a frozen river. Julian hated Pike. He loathed Bishop. And now he also hated Noah. He had brought Noah into his family, into his home. They'd been best friends, and when Noah's mom was worthless, Julian had graciously shared his own. And now Noah had taken his moment of glory for himself. While the storm raged outside, Liam and Hannah stay inside for 4 days. Liam had shoveled a pass for Ghost to do his business outside. Otherwise, he'd pushed the bloodied mattress into the corner of the room, given his mattress to Hannah and the baby, and taken up guard duty on the couch. And Hannah marveled at the tiny human in her arms. She was perfect. Charlotte Rose was perfect, and Hannah's heart burst with love for her. A love Hannah wasn't sure she would be able to feel, but she did. She felt it completely. And here, this novel ends. Okay, so we have 2 more books left. And I promise the next one, all of our characters will come together and be in the same place. That's the only spoiler I'm going to give you for the next story. But if you're still here, oh my gosh, thank you. If you have the inclination, please leave me a thumbs up or a like or ring the bell. And if you don't want to miss out on future descriptions of books from this series, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Other than that, do me a favor and be kind to yourself. You are the only self you're going to get, and you are both precious and important. I will catch you next time. Bye. She also has a fitted with snow tires on, with snow chain. Noah says they have things, they have to, and Julian, to Melissa, Hannah. Killing Hannah, the dog, and the shoulder. Milo and Quinn some beer jerky. I was overwhelmed.